Welcome to the second edition of the IMA Technology and Data Analytics Alumni Special Interest Group webinar series. Glad to see you all here on a Sunday morning, and I think we can blame this small glitch to the Sunday morning effect. Uh, well, as we've shared earlier, the IMA Technology and Data Analytics ASIG is a group of alumni and faculty of the institute with expertise and interest in the fields of technology. That's AI, ML, IoT, blockchain, etc., and analytics. It aims to foster collaboration among the IMA community of faculty, students, and alumni, and the wider world of technology and analytics practitioners. The webinar series started last time around with a panel discussion on product management global opportunities that brought together a distinguished panel from prominent organizations to address the issues from multiple perspectives and share their views. So today's topic of analyzing real-time unstructured data and unlocking the value of Indian business news. It is a result of an intensive research project that Professor Ankur Sinha and Satish Vakedas have been working on. We have both of them here today to talk about it in detail. Professor Ankur Sinha is faculty of production and content methods at IMA, and Satish Vakedas is PGP 2017, who's worked at IMA as a research associate and is now senior researcher at PSCT, Parque do Alentejo de Ciencia y Tecnología. Now I hand over the platform to Professor Ankur Sinha to take over the proceedings.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Ankur Sinha, and thank you very much, Anurag, for the introduction. So today, Satishwar is going to talk about analyzing real-time unstructured data, unlocking the value of Indian business news. So this is a research project that we have been working on for the last 2 years. Of course, I've been working on text mining for the last 1 decade already. But the reason why this project is interesting is we have analyzed almost 2 decades of Indian business news. And there are various kinds of information we are able to extract from the news, which is almost at the human level accuracy. And such kind of information extracted from the news would be useful for business decisions. It will be useful for investors. And I'm sure once Satishwar is done with the presentation, you will be able to identify a lot more use cases of the work that we have done. And of course, Satishwar will be talking about sentiments, but then when it comes to extracting information from news, we have gone far beyond that. For example, we know that what concept the news is talking about, what is the directionality of the concept. For example, in the context of business news, appearance of words like liability, appearance of words like profit, appearance of various kinds of ratios like debt ratios and all are very important. So if at all you can detect from the news that what kind of a direction are the ratios taking? What kind of a direction is liability taking? If you differentiate it from normal sentiment analysis or normal understanding of any text, liability most likely would emphasize something negative. But in the context of business, liability is something which most of the companies have. So until and unless you look at the directionality of liability, for example, if the liability is decreasing, then in that case, it becomes a positive news item for the company. Right? So the way the business news has to be analyzed is very different from the way normal news items or normal text is analyzed. So this particular work that we have done over the last 2 years is specifically focused on Indian business news, and that is what Satishwar is going to talk about, and that is what he's going to present. Of course, with this presentation, you will also get an idea about the developments that have happened in the area of text mining. I'm sure all of you must be aware or must be hearing quite a bit in the news about BERT, about GPT-3, and such kind of advanced technologies that have come up, which are actually allowing us to achieve human level accuracies. And Satishwar will touch upon the results, at least with BERT, and will give a bit of a discussion on GPT-3 as well. And therefore, what you'll see is that we will start from the basics of text mining, and we'll be using advanced methods, and we'll be showing you that how the results have improved and what is the current state of the art. So I will hand it over to Satishwar. Satishwar, please share the screen, and I think you can get started with the presentation.
Yes. Okay.
And of course, this work has been done with another research associate of mine, Rishu Kumar.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, it is visible, Satish.
Okay,
You can get started.
sure. Thank you, Ankur sir. So the basic agenda is as follows. First, I'll touch upon why we wanted to analyze business news. What is it that makes it different from others, and what is the information that we can capture from the news and see whether it's valuable. Later, I'll see or talk about what is the unstructuredness of this news text and how we can capture structure from it or represent it. Post which, I'll talk about the system design or the problems that need to be addressed if we want to design a system that needs to achieve a high level of accuracy. And in this context, I'll talk about the key contributions that we made to the field of finance and especially the business news analysis. Following which, as Prof had mentioned, I'll talk about the various models that we can use to represent text. And then I'll touch upon the ongoing work and the future directions of research. So, as Prof mentioned, as investors, why business news? Why not just the traditional sources like quarterly reports or annual reports? First thing, say, though they provide a lot of important information, they're quite untimely. And a lot of market events or multiple events regarding the companies or sectors might happen during this course of time that we can leverage to make better investment decisions. And there have been a lot of cases of inflation or deflation of figures in the traditional sources. However, and if we take into consideration that there are around 300 to 400 news items that are released per day, that gives us a lot of information that we can work with. And actually, the tools that have been developed using this news data have seen a lot of commercial success. Like there is a company called Ravenpack, which releases news sentiment data. And a recent study which utilized this news sentiment data to build a stock recommender actually achieved fourth in terms of performance out of 150 brokers, which is a great thing. And this performance corresponds to the excess market returns, which is around 16.82%, while the S&P 500 at the same time decreased by 6% during the COVID times. And most of these tools, even though they're very impressive, they are commercial and they often do not reveal how they are functioning. So one of the key motivations for us was to understand what are the problems that need to be solved if we were to create such kind of uh, publicly available resources. So moving on, how do we measure news information? So we have a news article and a news headline. So if for our purpose, if we can assume that the news headline represents most of the information that's contained in the news article, we can easily work with news headlines as they're concise and they're a lot informative. And there is a tradition in the news analytics community to proceed with a measure called sentiment as to what sentiment does the news headline attribute towards the companies or sectors that are mentioned in the news headlines. So we'll proceed with it, but that's not the only kind of information that we can extract from it. We can also look at other kinds of information, such as whether the news is talking about the future prospects of the company, or it's talking about past performance, or is it talking about the macro scenario, or is it talking about the micro scenario, and furthermore. Now, the question that we need to answer is sentiment easy to measure in the context of news headlines? If sentiments are explicit, yes, but a lot of times no, especially because of the short text. Okay, let's look at this headline. Not easy to make money in Maruti. Tata Motors top bet in auto. So it's easy to extract sentiment that's attributed to Tata Motors because there are words top bet which are strong positive sentiment words. But if you look at Maruti, it's a bit difficult because there is a positive phrase which is easy to make money and it's preceded by the word not, which negates the entire sentiment. So the system needs to understand that there is a presence of the word not that makes this sentiment negative. And what if we want to capture the sentiment for the auto sector? It's quite difficult, right? So first of all, the system has to recognize that auto here is not a vehicle, but a sector. And then it also has to identify the sentence structure to learn that the sentiment towards auto is neutral, but not positive. So let's say we have a system that can do this. So what does it really help in the Indian context? Do the sentiment changes predict market movements? So let's look at this graph. In the bold orange, you can see the Nifty market index, specifically the 30-day moving average, which is plotted in bold orange. So you can see that there are ups and downs, or the cycles, or there are bullish and bearish market situations. And in the backdrop, you can see the news-based sentiment index. We have also built the 30-day moving average of this. This news-based sentiment index was derived using the models that we developed during our study. And we have analyzed over 5 lakh plus news headlines derived from the Economic Times over a duration of 17 years from 2002 until 2018. So what we can clearly see is that there are peaks in the news-based sentiment index, and there are troughs that often precede the peaks and troughs in the Nifty market index. And one interesting thing to look at is that the peaks often precede by a very long time gap, while the troughs are quite instantaneous. One might even conjecture that the market is slow in picking up positive news, while it's very fast in picking up negative news. Well, given that, anyway, the idea is that yes, we see that the sentiment index precedes the market index and it can serve as a leading indicator. So let's move ahead. So are sentiments useful? Yes, and they have been recently tested in a algorithmic trading setting as well, where the uh, algorithmic trades using sentiments have shown to exceed the performance of trades that have not used sentiment. However, the key important thing to note is that there is a diminishing value of this news information because the market consumes the information very fast. And given the scale and the speed of information flow nowadays, it's even going to get slow. So if you look at the information ratio, the news information loses more than 50% of its value in less than 5 days in a portfolio setting. And in a stock setting or an individual stock setting, it loses almost entirely its value in just a single day. So it's really important that we have systems that can analyze the news and extract information and utilize it in a very short time span. So let's look at what makes this news text unstructured. The first thing is the presence of financial entities. Financial entities are companies, sectors, or indices. As humans, we have an implicit knowledge of what these financial entities are. Like, let's say we know that Chambal and Advanta are companies, while Sensex is a sector, sorry, as an index, or auto and pharmaceutical here specifically are pertaining to sectors. But systems do not have this knowledge. And if we want to extract information from this, we need to provide this information. And the same financial entity can appear in various forms, like Larsen and Toubro appears in one headline as Larsen and in the other headline as L&T. And just the presence of multiple financial entities in the same headline makes it difficult for us to extract this information and makes the entire news text quite unstructured. And then there are the presence of financial concepts like net loss, PAT, which is profit after tax, and then operating profit. If we have to look at net loss as individual words, there is no specific meaning to it, but combined together in the financial context, they have a specific meaning. So we need to provide this information to the system as well. And then there are sentiment expressions and modifiers. Like in some cases, there are explicit words like sell, which means that it's going to attribute a negative sentiment to the entities that are present. However, there are phrases like go long on, which in the financial context is attributing a positive sentiment. And then there are words like not, which negate the sentiment. And there are words like over, which compare two entities and provide differentiating or conflicting sentiments. So what is the problem that we want to solve, and what are the problems that we need to be addressed if we want to solve the problem effectively? Let's look at this headline. Q1 earnings take a toll on Street. Biocon down 8%, Indian Bank slips 8%, PNB 2%. So the idea is to build a system, a classifier system specifically, which can extract the sentiments of each individual entities and provide us the class of the sentiment here, which is negative. So what is the first problem that needs to be solved? We need to solve this entity recognition problem. This problem has actually been addressed by natural language processing literature, and there are a lot of AI-based methods. However, the present state-of-the-art systems, they're not accurate for our purpose, and especially for the Indian context. If you look at the news headline, Dr. Reddy's labs slips 4%, this particular Stanford Core NLP named entity recognizer is not able to recognize that Dr. Reddy's labs is an organization. And if you look at the news headline, M&M top bet in large caps, M&M is Mahindra and Mahindra. It's not able to recognize the same, and also it's not able to recognize that large caps talks about a specific group of companies. And the second thing that we need to focus on is to create a high quality data set. By data set, we mean that we need to have a certain set of examples that the system can learn from. Like we need to have a set of news headlines, and they need to be annotated for the entities that are present, and also the sentiments that the entities contain. And this is very important because there is lack of grammar or syntactical structure in these news headlines, and there are a lot of multiple entities, and they might also have conflicting sentiments. And the key task that we need to perform in the end is find a way or an effective way to convert this news text into a vector of numbers or numbers. It's because the classifier models which we use, which are traditionally support vector machines or neural networks, can only understand numbers. So in this context, I'll talk about our key contributions through this project. First of all, we created a database of Indian financial entities, in especially the forms in which they appear in the news. As mentioned earlier, this is very important to solve the entity recognition problem very accurately. So each entity or each financial entity has an official name, let's say Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. It has a symbol, which can be the stock ticker or a symbol that we have assigned. And there are other forms in which they have appeared in the news. So overall, we have built a database of over 1,000 plus entities and 5,000 phrases covering companies, sectors, currencies, commodities, and a lot more. And we are still improving on this. And then what we have developed is the sentiment and entity annotated financial news data set. So we extracted or sampled like 10,500 plus business news headlines from the Economic Times. And manually, we annotated for the sentiments and the entities that are present in the news headlines. So let's say we have a news headline, Reliance bullish, Tata and M&M scared downside. The annotations that are provided are Reliance as a positive sentiment, Tata and M&M are negative sentiments. So overall, we have 13,500 plus such sentiment pairs in this data set. One can think of this 13,500 plus points as data points that you can use to build your own model or train the models. And this is actually the first and largest multiple entity annotated data set that's available in finance, not just for the Indian news, but overall. So we have seen that there are cases where there are multiple entities in the news headlines, and we need to figure out a way as to how we can handle these multiple entities without losing the information of the presence or the context. So let's look at a news headline. Mahindra and Mahindra stock up 20% for strong revenue growth. Auto sector likely to see an uptick. So there are two financial entities. One is Mahindra and Mahindra, and the other is auto sector. And for our case, we have decided that few elements would be considered noise, like apostrophe s or numbers, certain symbols that do not add value to the information that's present in the news headline. So first, we'll recognize the entities and then remove the noise, then transform it into a different news headline. Later, since there are multiple entities, we'll create multiple instances of the same news headline. In the first instance, we have the focus on Mahindra and Mahindra, so we replace it with the feature called target, while Autospace is replaced by the feature called other. And when we want to focus on Autospace, we replace it by target while replacing M&M with other. So in our case, we have removed the numbers, but in some other case, it might be important. So this is a design choice, and it might be, it's left to the user to choose as to whether to remove this information or to keep it. So moving on, as I mentioned earlier, we need effective ways to represent this text. So one of the predominant models of representing text has been the bag of words approach. The key idea behind this approach is that sentences are basically words, a group of words that are chosen from vocabulary. Now, this doesn't capture the meaning of the words or the syntactic structure of the words, but it's a very good starting point because it's easy to implement and easy to understand. So we can look at measures like we can count the number of times each word occurs or check for the presence of a word. So let's look at two headlines which are derived from the same news headline, but these are two instances in which one target has a positive sentiment while the other target has a negative sentiment. If we were to represent it using the count or the number of times each word occurs, we get a vector of this sort. You see that other has occurred 2 times and then each word has occurred 1 time. As you can see, yes, even though we need to get 2 different sentiments, based on this representation, it's highly likely that we might extract a positive sentiment for both the cases. However, we see that the baseline model is able to achieve a test accuracy of 81%. So we can actually improve this performance. So the adapting it to the multiple entity case is a bit difficult because we are not able to capture the syntactic structure. But what if we can break the sentence into multiple parts prior to representing it in the form of numbers? Then maybe we can improve the performance. But we can also look at increasing the vocabulary or think of sentences as bag of phrases instead of looking at just words. However, the size increases exponentially, and that would need a lot of computational resources. So based on this idea, now let's look at the next model that has been used predominantly. So the idea is sentences are basically a collection of phrases. And what are phrases? Phrases are ordered word groups. So if it's a single word, we call it a unigram. And if there are 2 words, we call it a bigram. If it's 3, then it's a trigram. And again, the measure is the same. We can look at the number of times each phrase occurs, or we can check for the presence of a phrase. So let's look at this particular instance of a news headline, or 2 news headlines. So as we can see, headline 1, in which the target stock up post strong revenue growth, we see that the phrase target stock appears once and stock up appears once, while in the second news headline, it doesn't appear. So in a way, we are able to learn the syntactic structure, and we could improve the performance by 2% up to 83%. And this is the baseline model. So we can also look at complex measures. If we have a sense that rare words generally tend to have more information, we can use complex measures that actually encapsulate the idea that rare words have more information. But the issue with this approach is that with addition of each new word, the size increases exponentially in the sense that the unigrams increase by 1, the bigrams increase by the number of bigrams that are already present, and trigrams similarly. And each time a new word is added to the vocabulary, we need to recompute the model parameters, and this involves a lot of recomputation. So the third and the most important approach with respect to the domain of finance has been the dictionary approach. The idea is that let's just focus on the task and let's build dictionaries that have predefined sentiments for words. So in this context, there has been a lot of work earlier, like the Harvard General Inquirer and MPQA provide general sentiment definitions. And in 2009, Lauren and McDonald have developed a finance-focused sentiment dictionary. And then the idea that financial concepts need a very different treatment. And this was actually the work done by Ankur Sinha sir and his colleagues, that the financial concepts are directionality dependent. The sentiment that a financial concept contains is dependent on the direction that it has moved in. Let's say EBIT has increased, then it corresponds to a positive sentiment. If it has decreased, then it corresponds to a negative sentiment. So based on this, they created two new word features, which are called the positive if up and negative if up. This captures the directionality dependence. So using this approach, we can actually condense or reduce the vocabulary size to a few word categories, where we have sentiments, and then we have the directions, we have the financial concepts, and then we have the negatives. In sentiments, we have positive, negative, neutral, and in the directions, we have up and down. And then in the financial concept, positive if up, negative if up. Negatives, all forms of negatives are termed as negatives in this case. So what we have built over this. So what we have observed in a news headlines is that the same word may appear with different contexts. Like for example, if you look at the word growth, growth lags. Here the growth appears as a noun, while there is strong growth. Yes, noun, but it has a different sense to it. The growth lags provides a negative sentiment, while the strong growth provides a positive sentiment. So we have added around 400 words based on the news headlines that we annotated, and we also modified around 500 plus word features. So if we have a news headline, target stock of strong revenue growth, using the dictionary, we first transform it into the word features. Then we use the Ngram model to represent it, where the vocabulary now is the features. So this significantly reduces our model size and also enables us to capture the interactions and the financial concepts in a better way. So we were able to increase the performance by 2% up to 85% with just these modifications. And one of the key reasons that this is not able to perform well is that the negation effects are not easy to capture even with this approach. So if in the case that not easy to make money was present, not appears far from the target, and using even a trigram model where we look at 3 sized word groups, we'll not be able to capture that not is attributing a negative sentiment to the target in an easy way. We can actually couple these word features with other word features like what part of speech and what is the word position in the particular sentence to improve the performance. One key issue with this approach is that, as we have seen, we have made an implicit understanding of the context in which the word appears in. So let's look at growth. We have given it a positive annotation. Or, however, sometimes it might be that growth can provide a up annotation or it provides a directionality. So there is a heuristic contextual understanding that we've used in it. But if there can be much rigor or there can be a method in which context can be learned without us annotating for it, then it would be much more effective. And then this moves us or takes us into the era of machine learning and deep learning, where we have seen the advent of the representations called word embeddings. Here, I use the word black box in the sense that if you look at individual word embeddings, they do not mean anything, or we'll not be able to understand what that embedding means by just looking at the vector of numbers that is 6. So to actually understand what a specific word means, we also need to look at other words in the context. So the idea is that the word meaning are embedded in the context. So let's look at these 3 headlines. The meaning of the word banking can be extracted if we can look at the words that appear surrounding it. So government debt problems turning into and crisis has happened in 2009. So this kind of gives a sense as to what banking relates to or what it means. Using this idea, what if we can derive the word representations? And this was the work, and this is one of the most cited work in the deep learning or the natural language processing field, which is called the word-to-vec architecture. So it uses a local context window. By context window, we mean a group of words. Let's say in this particular news headline, government debt problems turning into banking crisis, we look at 5 words that appear before banking and 5 words that appear after banking. We use these words to derive the probability that banking occurs in the presence of these particular words. And this gives us a vector representation of each word. So let's say we have 3 words, loser, loses, and wins. Once we run it through the word-to-vec model, and let's say we have used the news headlines dataset, we have achieved a representation in these 5 dimensions. So I've just considered 5 values of the vector. There might be more. We can consider 50, 100, or anything, depending on your interests. So loser, loses, and wins seem to have the same values in the first, second, and third dimension, but they seem to differ only on the fourth and fifth dimension. If we have to represent it visually, if you look at fourth and fifth dimension axis, we can plot these 3 words as 3 different points. So loser is on the lowermost, while wins is on the rightmost, as you can see. The interesting thing about word-to-vec is if we can think of these points as vectors in this 2-dimensional space, we can create new vectors and we can actually come up with new words. Or let's say we want to capture the point, or we want to look at what is the point winner, or where is the point winner is. So we can subtract losers from wins and add it to loser to get the point winner, which is a great thing, which means that these word representations can act together to generate new words, or we can use different words to generate the meaning of a specific another word. So building on this, there is an idea called pre-training. So the idea is that what if we now know that the word vectors can be very useful. So what if we can pre-train these models on a large database or a large data set like Wikipedia and Twitter, which have a lot of sentences. And then instead of using just a few words like 5 or 10 in the context, what if we can use the global context? This should help us better capture the dependencies over long distances in the same text, like which will help us solve the negation problem. And this is the idea that gave rise to the vectors called global vectors for word representations. So the smallest size of these vectors, they contain about 400,000 vocabulary, and each word is a 50-dimensional vector. And the size of it is around 822 MB. And the largest size GloVe vectors pertain to around 2.2 million vocabulary, and each vector has 300 dimensions to it. Now, to represent sentences, we replace each word with this individual vector. So we get for each news headline a matrix of numbers. And then we can use this matrix of numbers to train our models. So with GloVe at the baseline, we were able to achieve 88% accuracy. So Vertovec, as we see, is not able to capture, is not good at capturing long-term dependencies because it uses a short context window. However, GloVe seems to solve the problem, but we need a lot of computational resources. And the advantage that we see is quite low. And here I would like to point out why the business news or the financial domain is different from other domains. These vectors have been trained on data sets like Wikipedia or Twitter or Google News, which covers the general news. But if you look at specific financial news, we see that there are financial concepts, let's say net loss or operating profit, which need to be considered as phrases and not words to learn the better word representations. And again, we see that the word embeddings are still based on the words that are present and not the contextual phrases. What if instead of just the words, if we can use phrases surrounding the words? That should be able to provide a better performance. And that's the idea that's behind what the concept called transfer learning is. Transfer learning is the idea that as humans, let's learn the language itself over time and then utilize what we have learned or the knowledge that we have gained over time during this learning process on some specific task. So this is what has happened. There have been advancements in NLP. One of the recent advancements is the BERT model, which was released in 2019 and was developed at Google. It's a deep learning language model or deep language model. And it learns not just from the words that are present or the embeddings of the words, but also the positions of the words in the text and also the phrase that they appear in. So if you look at this particular picture, here we can see that the input has certain words like my dog is cute. And then there is a separator, which might be a comma and or something. But all of these have been attributed to a token called separator. Then what we see are there are embeddings for each of these words. And then there are the segment embeddings, which say that this particular word corresponds to the first part of the entire sentence. And then we have the position embeddings, which say that, let's say, my appears on the second position, dog appears on the third position in the entire text. BERT, when it was released, was shown to have the highest performance among all the deep learning language models that were present during that time. So when we use BERT and we fine-tuned it to a data set, we were able to achieve a test accuracy of 92%, which is very near to the human performance, or sometimes maybe better than the human performance. And we expect that the future developments may further improve this accuracy. Now, BERT is a very large model, but luckily, these are often obtained as pre-trained models, and there are packages that we can directly use in our models without having to recompute it. Let's have a short comparison. Let's just look at this image. So ULM Fit, Elmo, GPT, BERT, GPT-2, all these are deep learning language models. And BERT base, which is the smallest BERT model, has around 100 million parameters, which is in fact a lot. But then in 2020, OpenAI released a model called GPT-3, which has 175 billion parameters. And it exceeds humans in almost all the natural languaging tasks, such as language generation, as the text generation, summarization, sentiment classification, and a lot more. And the model sizes are going to increase and the performance is going to get better. But the key issue with these is that we cannot interpret what each word representation means. And we have seen that that's very important in the financial context. And fine tuning is very subjective, and the performance that I achieve may not be achieved by others. So this is an area that one can look at and achieve different levels of performance. And what if a certain word or a phrase is very rare? The representation still will have a lot of noise because there is not much information or the not much context that's there to learn the word representation. And this is a shortcoming of these models. However, in our context or in our purposes, we do not see words that appear so rare, and we can obtain about 92 plus or 95 plus accuracies. So having said that, I'll just touch upon what the ongoing work here is and what are the future research directions are. Interpretability is one of the key ideas that we want to look at, because in finance literature, we often need to understand the why and the how, as in why the sentiments or why this particular information is relevant to this particular context, and how we are able to achieve this, because we need to explain our models. That's very important for investment managers and others alike. So if you look at financial concepts and the directionality driven approach, it's a very crude way to achieve interpretability. And dashboard is a use case of how to utilize this information to present as a business intelligence. There are various other ways to achieve interpretability, which is modifying the information that's extracted. So what if we can extract other information that can talk about the news headline? So here I'll talk about the current work that Ankur Sinha sir and a fellow research associate Tanmay have done. So they have taken the gold commodity news, and they've not just looked at what sentiments do they contain, but they looked at, is the news headline talking about the price? If yes, is the price up, or is the price down, or is the price stable? And they've also looked at other aspects like whether it's a forward-looking news headline, or is it talking about the past price? So is it talking about the future price or the past price? And we can come up with much more classes or categories that we can attribute the news headline to for our purposes. And we can also look at a lot of other information sources. We can look at news articles instead of news headlines. Here we'll be able to capture very granular information. And also we can also look at the topical content of it, by which I mean, is the news article talking more about the profitability of the company or the valuation of the company, such sort. And then some interesting other information sources are the conference calls. Here we can do an analysis like, what is the tone of the speaker? Is the content that's present in the conference calls novel, or is that always it has already been presented? And we can also look at how concrete or how precise this information is. And we can also look at a lot of other more information. And with this, I'll conclude my part of the presentation, and I'll hand it over to Ankur sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Satishwar, for the presentation. So as you could see towards the end of the presentation, Satishwar spoke about interpretability, and that is one of the areas that people are actively looking at. Many a times the machine learning models, they make a prediction about something that, okay, this is a positive news headline, this is a negative news headline. But as a user, in many of the cases, what I'm curious about is, why is it positive? What actually makes something positive? What actually makes something negative? And therefore the discussion is, can AI be made explainable? Can AI explain me why it has given this kind of an answer? So those are some of the aspects we are looking at right now. And the results that we have got so far are extremely positive, and most likely we will go ahead and publish our results on explainable AI as well. At the same time, along with the stocks, we have been looking at commodities as well, particularly gold. The reason why it is important to look at commodities is because commodities are quite volatile. And if at all we can add one more variable, one more information that is coming from news into some of the existing models that investors or professional analysts are using, and if this particular variable or this particular indicator is even a bit valuable, it has the capability to add quite a bit of alpha for the investors or the analysts. So as you could see, the importance of business news, both in the context of stocks and commodity, is not just useful for investors, but there could be other use cases as well. For example, let's say you're talking about a company PR who's monitoring all the news items that are being generated for that particular company. And whenever there is a negative item, whenever there is a positive item, you want to immediately take an action. So these machine learning models will be intelligent enough to navigate a lot of sources, look at the variety of news that is being generated for your company. If something negative or something positive pops up anywhere in the internet arena, it will be able to create a signal for you to act immediately. So some of this discussion is not just limited in the context of investment, but it can be extended elsewhere as well. So that is all from our side. Thank you very much. Thanks for participating in this webinar.